The presenting sponsor of Swoontower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello friends, thanks for listening to Swoontower Soccer. This week we'll cover who Austin FC left unprotected in the MLS expansion draft. We'll talk about Austin's next opportunity to sign new players, and we'll also premiere our new spin-off, Swoontower Soccer. My name is Landon Cottom, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley, who is currently sitting in a hotel room in Orlando, Florida.
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bentley. I just sent Landon a picture of my microphone sitting in a leftover cocktail glass from one of this afternoon's vodka sodas. So, yes, I'm in Orlando at an insurance conference that has supposedly 6,500 people here. And the rumor on the street, which I believe, is that this is probably the place in the United States where the most alcohol is sold during a single week to a whole bunch of insurance people learning about insurance. And I think one of the most interesting things I'm going to see is tomorrow they're going to live stream a surgery. So that's kind of wild.
Just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah, they'll do it, and I guess the doctor's going to explain what they're doing. So I'm going to get to see a knee operation tomorrow morning, which is going to be a real highlight of the trip.
Or people are going to be placing bets on the side about what's going to happen next, or if he cuts the wrong tendon or whatever. Yeah,
that'd be a really bad. Yeah, hopefully things don't go wrong, because it would be a very public way for them to go south.
I wonder if the person knows that their surgery is being live streamed.
I hope so. I hope that they do. Nope, they consented to that. Although I think everybody's knee probably looks almost the same, so I don't think you necessarily will be able to tell once they're inside what's it going to be like.
Is that sufficiently anonymized that you don't have to get permission from the patient?
No, don't worry about it. There's just 6,000 people watching me cut your knee open.
All right. Before we jump into the content, I wanted to give a quick update about Swoontower Soccer shirts. All of those have now been sent out. So please let us know if you have not gotten yours. And I would like to personally apologize for a few of you who did not get your original order. Jeremiah and I we're not e-commerce people. We're just humble podcasters. And so we're doing the best we can. If we ever do it again, we have learned a lot of valuable lessons about
what not to do. Yeah.
Yes. And we'll be better at it next time. But all shirts have been either sent out or delivered by this point. So please reach out and let us know if you have not received yours, and we'll be sure to remedy that. All right, let's jump into the Austin FC news, Jeremiah. So the first bit we wanted to touch on was the half-day trade window that happened on this most recent Sunday. Austin FC did not make any moves. Were you surprised by that at all?
I was a little bit surprised by that, because we've got a lot of roster spots to fill. And I mean, I didn't expect anything like last year. And I feel like Charlotte had the kind of day on Sunday. Also, conferences are places where time doesn't exist, so I'm a little bit lost on what day it is. But but yeah, they had the kind of day we had Sunday, and but I thought we would have made some move. Were you expecting to see something?
I think I was for a while, and then kind of remembered we don't have to fill an entire roster this year, and so it's probably not going to look the same as last year. And then so I was thinking we'd probably see at least one move done, but yeah, I wasn't super surprised to see none either, if that makes sense. I
mean, who else? Like Nashville had a really busy day, right? Other than Charlotte.
Yeah, Nashville sold 2 international roster spots. I think they've sold 4 total now, which is really interesting to see the way that they're managing that. And so I think there's a lot of MLS nerd stuff going on. It's going to be really fascinating to see how those 2 teams continue their roster build, with Charlotte with 2 extra international spots and Nashville with only 3 or 4 total at this point. So if you're into your MLS nerdery, definitely bookmark those 2 pages. So today, we're recording this on Monday, December 13th. Today, we received the list of players who will be eligible for Charlotte FC's expansion draft. So there are 22 eligible clubs, including Austin FC. Going through that list, So Chris Bills actually wrote an article a couple of weeks ago predicting who would be protected and left unprotected, and he absolutely nailed it. He got 100% of his picks right. But looking at this list, so I'll go ahead and read the protected players here. So there was Julio Cascante, Musa Jite, Cecilio Dominguez, Sebastian Driussi, Diego Fagundes, Jean Kolmanich, Nick Lima, Tomas Pochettino, Rodney Redes, Alex Ring, Johan Romagna, and Brad Stuver. And then Danny Pereira and Owen Wolf, because of their roster status, were automatically protected, so they didn't need to be placed on that list to be protected. Any surprises here, Jeremiah?
Well, we talked about this last week, maybe, or 2 weeks ago. And I was an advocate for keeping John Gallagher and not Rodney Redes, but I think you did a pretty good job of explaining why. Although I think some people, particularly Brian Mangum, didn't necessarily buy the logic about why we kept him. But no, somebody. I guess it's basically the starting 11 plus Rodney, right? Or our 12 protected players.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. So in the Rodney Redis thing again, I was chatting with Adam Houghton. I'm not sure how you say his last name, but he's a listener of the show, I believe. Chatting with him in Los Verdes Slack, and he was like, any predictions before the rosters come out? And my prediction was Rodney Redes is going to be protected, and some people in this chat are going to be really angry about it. And as soon as it came out,
lo and behold,
yeah. It was always going to happen though, right? Because regardless of what you think of Rodney Redes as a player, he still has value as an asset to the club. They could sell him at some point. And looking at the players that were left unprotected, that's not something you could say about many of them. They have value to the team, sure, but as far as like fiscal value, most of them do not have much. And so I think it comes simply down to that you can sell Rodney Redes and still will expect and hope to sell Rodney Redes on for some real money at some point in the future. Going on to the players who were not protected. So there's several players. So there are several players who are included on this unprotected list who are actually no longer under contract. And I think that's a little bit confusing for folks who have not closely paid attention to an expansion draft before. And so, Jeremiah, tell me if I'm missing any details here, but essentially they're still on our roster until the end of the calendar year. And also we still own their MLS rights until that point. And so it's a situation where like Austin FC chose Joe Corona last year, even though his contract was ending. That just means we get the first chance of negotiating a contract with him. He doesn't have to go through the allocation order. He doesn't have to go through free agency. We get to directly negotiate with him before anybody else. And so that's why you see people like Kukutamane, like Ben Sweat, like Aaron Schoenfeld still on this list. It's because they still could get chosen and that team or Charlotte would get to negotiate with them. But I think it makes it a less likely option for them to get chosen. There are 8 players that are still under contract available for selection. I think there's really only 4 who have any chance of getting taken at all. And tell me if you have any that you would subtract or add to this list. But I have John Gallagher, number 1. I think he's the most likely player to get taken. Number 2 is Hector Jimenez, a versatile MLS veteran. An expansion team would do well to take someone like him. Andrew Tarbell, Charlotte did buy Cisniega from LAFC, but he's not on a ton of money and like didn't show enough this year to say that he's going to be the out and out starter. So they might be looking for someone to compete with him. And then Ulises Segura, kind of for the same reasons I said for Jimenez, just he's been around the league, can play a few different positions, and they might be looking to add someone like him to the roster. Is there anybody else that you would give a shot of getting taken?
No, I can't see anybody else from this list of available players getting taken. And I'd be surprised by anybody but Gallagher, I think, just because, you've only got 5 spots. Jimenez is a veteran and, like a long-term veteran. And I bet Jimenez is a guy that would not be very excited to play somewhere else from what I understand about him and who we've talked to, because you think there's just like with Joe Corona, there's like a player side of that too, to where, you know, you want somebody who's like willing to go and and is going to be excited about it. I know Jimenez had said like if he couldn't play in Columbus, he would play for Josh Wolf, and I can't imagine he'd be really excited about taking off and moving somewhere else. And then with Segura being, you know, not playing all year, I think he would not be super appealing too. You know, maybe Tarbell goes, maybe not. That would be a favor to Austin, I think, right? If Tarbell goes, would we?
Yeah, I mean, it
we would
really
be happier
would.
to not have him than have him. I think we would be.
Yeah, I mean, it would essentially, not that he's terrible, it just free up some roster budget space for us. So, yeah, that would be an interesting one to see. So another possibility is that Austin essentially makes an agreement with Charlotte for them to pick someone and then trade them to us. I think there's a lot of different options there. It really just kind of depends on if Charlotte's looking to make a deal like that, and if Austin gives them the right value for that deal. So really no way to predict what that would be or who it would be, but it could be a way to kind of bring in some of those depth spots that we're going to need to fill.
The Kamal Miller style move. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Kamal Miller move, except maybe do it better than that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we would be the beneficiaries.
Yeah. I think we were on the other end of that. That would be a great move to make.
So we talked about all the people who might get taken. That being said, I honestly don't think we'll have anybody taken. Tom Bogert tends to agree. He released an article not too long ago, just a couple hours ago, kind of listing what the best available options are, like players who were left unprotected. I think he listed probably 20 players or so. Not a single one of them were Austin FC players. So there are a lot of options. There are more teams than there has ever been available to choose from. 22 teams to choose from has not ever happened in MLS before. And so, well, maybe it has. I don't know. I'm not going to do the math. But anyway, there's a lot of players to choose from, and some actually pretty good players to choose from. And so they would have to be seeing something very specific and looking for something very specific to land on one of these Austin players, which it is still possible. But I just think with the number of players out there, I don't know that it's super likely that we're going to lose someone. We will find out Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Time. They had not released that time until early, like Monday morning, Monday afternoon, typical MLS fashion. Also, these protected lists came out like 2 hours after the advertised time as well. So typical MLS fashion. But anyway, the draft is going to happen 6 p.m. on Tuesday. We'll find out if we have a player taken. And if we do or don't, we'll talk about that on next week's show. So what does the...
I was gonna say this is not even the same time, right? Didn't we do it at 5 Central?
Oh, did we? I don't remember.
So I thought I like listened to it on the way home from work.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So
that sounds right.
Like you said, things always change.
Yeah. So looking at the rest of the week, so free agency opens on Wednesday, the 15th. So that's really kind of the next time that Austin could be adding players. We could lose a player on Tuesday. Or if we end up doing some weird trade or something, we could end up gaining a player. But really, free agency on the 15th is going to be the next addition we could expect. But even then, it doesn't, like, we'll have until the beginning of the season essentially to kind of work out free agency stuff. Also, the dates for the transfer window are not published anywhere, have not been advertised anywhere. But we learned last year about this too. It's kind of a formality, right? Like, you can kind of announce these signings and get everything done except for like their MLS registration, like league registration. And so we could even start seeing some trades from some signings from outside of the league coming as soon as Wednesday. Probably not that soon, but maybe.
Which I know everybody's starving for.
Yeah, I know. We got like I said before, we got kind of spoiled with it last year. Just like, okay, we're getting close to Christmas. That means we're going to sign 15 players.
Yeah, we went from 2 to, is that what it was? Probably right. from 2 to almost a full roster over the course of like 3 weeks. Yeah, it's definitely a different pace this year when we'll fill out the 8 spots we have available.
Another thing we have to look forward to this week is also on Wednesday, the 15th, the full MLS schedule will be released. So that's when you can kind of start planning away travel, start circling specific dates on the calendar. So that should be pretty exciting as well. Any other bits of news I'm missing here, Jeremiah?
No, just on the schedule, that seems earlier than. Well, it's definitely earlier than it was last year, because last year there were plenty of things going on with a collective bargaining agreement and a global pandemic and everything else. But I'm excited to know before the end of the year what next year's schedule is going to look like.
Or before 3 weeks before the season.
Well, yeah, exactly. So yeah, everybody should look forward to a more normal 2021, and I think. Normal 2022. It still won't be completely that way, right? Because we have to wrap the season up with like the second week in November or something. I guess we'll learn that this week. But because of the World Cup, for those of you that don't always follow this, I guess 2023 may be the first time that you have an MLS schedule that's like what we have been used to expecting.
Yeah, next year we're going to start early and end early because of the strangely scheduled World Cup. So we'll have to move that around. But also in 2023, we're going to have I forget what it's called, but that tournament with Liga MX where we're taking a whole month break in the summer. So it may start earlier and still end later than any other year. So we might not ever get a normal schedule again.
Yeah, well, just like with many things, MLS, chaos may be normality.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
Yeah,
it's all part of the beauty. Some other MLS news. NYCFC won MLS Cup in penalty kicks the other day. That was not always a great game, but at its best moments, an extremely exciting game. Ronnie Dyla, NYCFC's coach, got naked and did push-ups at the end of the game, which, again, MLS chaos, you love to see it. But a few days before that, Don Garber gave his State of the League address / press conference and had some really interesting statements to say about Austin, didn't he?
Yeah, he was really, really positive on Austin, and he didn't have to talk about it. Although I believe it was to a question from Chris Bills, right, about what happened in Austin. So he said, I think this is talking about Precourt, which I'll go back a little bit. This is the quote. He says, "The move to Austin was a traumatic process for Anthony, his family, and for Major League Soccer," which I feel like was pretty big a thing to say. But he says, "But I think he saw something in Austin that's turned into MLS at its very best." And then he went into more detail specifically about how Austin is MLS at its best, from fans to the sponsorships to everything else. And then also specifically called out Matthew McConaughey for his involvement in game day and the club, which amount of controversy on that too. Did you pick up anything else from that article that you think was worth covering?
No, I think like MLS at its best, I think that's really high praise from like the top guy in MLS. And I think it's true, but it's really cool to see Don Garber saying that explicitly. Regarding the move to Austin being traumatic on Anthony Precourt, I think that's absolutely true. I think that trying to move the crew to Austin had way more to do with Don Garber and MLS than it did with Anthony Precourt. So I think it's absolutely true that it was, and I think it was way more difficult than they expected it to be. And so I think it was really traumatic for Anthony Precourt. I also think it was a dumb thing for Don Garber to say publicly.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the upside in that? I don't know what the win out of that is. And I do tend to agree with you. I feel like getting a team in Austin was the goal of the league. It has been for a long time. And Anthony Precourt was the vehicle to do it. But I don't know that he was like the origination of the idea. I mean, it came out of the league office. So I'm not sure what he was going for there, but thanks for making everybody on Big Soccer and Columbus mad and giving us all something to talk about there, Don.
All right. Anything else we need to cover, Jeremiah?
No, I think we got to hit. It was a bit of a light news week. I know when we were talking about recording this, I think we were both hoping we would have some player moves to talk about, but I think we've kind of hit on what's going on this week.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll probably have some more stuff to talk about next week. But the show's not over yet. We are going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with a new kind of our new spin-off segment called Swoontower Soccer. We kind of teased this last week, but hadn't recorded it yet, and so I didn't want to say too much because we didn't really know what it was going to look like. But the idea of this is to kind of it's going to be all about the boys, and so we're going to kind of focus on some of the more fun, lighthearted stuff that we don't generally have time to talk about on Moontower. We're still kind of playing with what this format is going to be, whether it's going to be just a segment within this show or potentially even being its own show altogether that would just pop up in this feed every once in a while. So let us know after listening if you have any opinions about what that should look like or what you want to hear. And we want to the goal is to make stuff you want to hear. So let us know what you think, and we'll try to make it work for everyone. But we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with our first ever episode of Swoontower Soccer. Moontower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community transparency and client education. And I can report that I saw an FVF billboard on my way to the airport, on the way to Orlando.
I thought you were going to say you saw one in Orlando.
No, that would be wild. No, on the airport on the way. And so I guess they're, but it wasn't like an angry guy with the crossed arms on top of a car. But it was about their support of the community. So again, I appreciate the fact that they do things differently than any other billboard lawyer I have seen, both in Austin and in Orlando here. I've seen plenty of those too.
I bet Orlando takes it to another level.
They do. There's lots of Florida man here.
All right. Well, you can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fvf.law. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Swoontower Soccer, a show that's all about the boys. I am joined today by Steph Cragnola and Mike Ellison, the podcasting wonder couple. Guys, thanks so much for joining me. And first of all, Steph, did I say your last name right?
Nah, but it's okay.
How do you say it?
Cragnola. It's
Cragnola.
like the G in like lasagna. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to do the hand motion too. You were right with that. Yeah.
There you go. Those watching at home, nobody, we're not recording the video. So this is Swoontower Soccer. This is a slightly different take on our normal show. And by slightly, I mean completely different take on our normal show. But Mike, do you want to kind of tell us why and how this show came about?
Yeah, sure. So Steph and I love the boys a whole lot. They're good boys. And one of the things that we feel like is really missing from the discourse out there, we got a lot of hot takes. We got a lot of the zeitgeist. We got a lot of statistical analysis out there. But the question that I have is, what about the boys, Landon?
What about the boys?
What about those sweet boys that we all love so very much? I want to know about them.
Yeah, I remember talking to you at my birthday party, which was the first time I met you in person.
It's true, yeah. Which was a great invite, by the way. If anyone out there is like, oh, hey, I'd like to be friends with someone, invite them to your birthday party. It's not weird. It's actually cool. It feels really nice.
Yeah, so we try to include some boys content on Moontower Soccer, but we only have so many minutes in a week to talk about it, and we usually end up with a long list of stuff that we don't have time to get to. And so having like this extra space to just get it all out at once is going to be excellent. So I know that you both were telling me earlier this week that there's like moments that you saw throughout the season that kind of inspired these ideas, or this idea of like doing a boys centric show. And so what are some of your favorite boys moments of the season?
Yeah, so I love watching soccer, but I'm not gonna lie. All of the tactical stuff kind of just goes over my head. I'm learning, but I pick up more on their attitudes on the pitch, and when they get a little spicy, those are my favorite moments. And there was a match that Mike couldn't make it to, and I was there with a couple of girlfriends, and we were just screaming. It was when Brad Stuver elbowed someone in the chest and then didn't get carded for it at all. And that whole match was so... I mean, I don't even remember what happened in the soccer, but I remember that match because all we could talk about was how spicy and how feisty the boys were. And that was kind of, as I was recapping the match with Mike, who was not there live, it was all I could talk about. And that wasn't very helpful to him. But it was very fun for me. So that was kind of, that match is really when I was like, this is the part of soccer that I am very knowledgeable, expert level about attitudes.
Yeah.
There are many ways to enjoy soccer.
Yeah.
I remember she got home from the match and I had been doing something. I had to work on a project or I don't know. I just missed it. And it was terrible. And I was like, so what happened? And she was like, oh my God, it was so spicy. The boys, they wanted it tonight. You know, like it wasn't a good match, but you could tell they were really after it. And I was like, yeah, but what happened? It was the match we lost 4-3, where it was back and forth the whole time. Vancouver, I think it was.
I think it was San Jose.
San Jose, yes. That is exactly who it was.
Stuver wrecked a dude.
Yeah.
And then...
That's the part that I remember the most. And then
Alex
someone
Ring
pulled up someone
too,
by their
he?
like jersey up from the ground because he was rolling around on the ground from San Jose.
Because Cascante rolled a guy off the field and then he rolled back on to try to delay the game.
Yeah, and all the memes.
That I think is one of my favorite moments from the season.
And
that was kind of a turning point in the season for me when I was like, no more expectations. Like, I know we lost that game when we probably shouldn't have, but I had a blast that game.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. I know a lot of people were like saying, this is one of the worst games all year. I was like, really?
No.
I had a lot of fun at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a perspective that like we tend to lose when we only focus on, you know, the performance on the field or the tactical, like whatever, right? For me, there was a moment after Owen Wolf was signed as our first homegrown player, and everyone was so mad on the internet about what a homegrown player is, and like all I could think about was, Landon, do you think Owen Wolf goes home like after school or like after practice and his dad like just doesn't let up about it? You know, like, do you think Josh is like a sports dad where he's like, you know, son, you could have made that extra pass today in practice, like at the dinner table, and poor Mrs. Wolf is sitting there like, oh my God, why? Like,
you would have to think he is, right?
He's gotta be.
But also, I don't know enough about Mrs. Wolf to know if she would allow that. Because she might, like, put her foot down on that kind of stuff. But also, like, he's probably not at home a lot either. So maybe, like, there's only, like, so many free moments in the day that they don't get around to talking about the bad pass that Owen made in practice.
Yeah, I mean, we are just two people and we both have full-time jobs, and it is rare that we're sitting around a dinner table like in just our lives. Imagining like at that MLS level, I don't think 7 p.m. dinner time is something that maybe necessarily happens.
No way.
I could be wrong.
They both drive home from the stadium or from the practice center together. You know, the car ride is super quiet.
I thought you were going to say they drove in separate cars.
Not yet. He's only 16. He doesn't have a license.
That's how old you have to be to get a license.
Permit first,
I think in Texas,
right?
you're 16.
16 is a license everywhere.
Oh, man. That's even worse. They get in different cars. They drive home. And then, like, at dinner, right, Mrs. Wolf is like, so, how was work? And Josh, like, has to, like, hold it in, not to, like, be like, let me tell you about what your son did, you know? And like, he's such a, like, Owen Wolf is such a 16-year-old boy as a sub, because we sit in 107.
Yeah.
And so we see all the subs hanging out while they're like doing their drills and stuff. Owen and Lil Sebastian were like best friends.
And total hams. They are turning to the crowd. They're catching, you know, winks and waves. And they know that they're stretching and warming up and doing whatever they are, like right in front of people. And the two of them play it up so much. And it is so fun to watch.
And like, that's the stuff that I wanted to talk about, right? Like, everybody loves the stretching. Everybody loves the stretching, but it's the cute stuff that happens in addition to that, right? The season ticket holder who sits right next to us is obsessed with Johan. And every time he comes over to the sideline to warm up, she's screaming his name. And finally one day he looked at her and I thought she was going to die. And so, like, Marilyn, this podcast is for you. Like,
this one goes out to you, Marilyn. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is do a bit of a social media roundup and kind of catch up with the boys, what they've been up to since the season has been over. So who wants to start? Who's got a recap for us?
You're first on the list. Why don't you take it away?
All right. The first thing I want to talk about is Kakuta Mane at a fashion show. Did y'all see this?
I did not see this. I tried to go back and look at his Instagram, and it must have been in stories.
It was a story.
Yeah, it was a story. So it was on like a Sunday afternoon or something. He posted the story of him like watching fashion models walk down the Domain. Like, apparently they blocked off street, like one of the roads in the Domain or whatever, and they were having a fashion show down in front of Lululemon and stuff. And like, it was just such a weird, like, of the players that are on our team, Kakuta Mane is the last person that I would have assumed to be at a fashion show. Like, Julio Cascante makes perfect sense. Dude is always like top tier dressed on the team, right?
Absolutely.
Jean Kolmanich, I would have totally pegged as like the type to be at a fashion show. It just feels so European and cool. Kakuta, though, like, good on him, but it just like, would never have guessed. He strikes me as a dude who, like, yeah, I shop at, like, I don't know, PacSun. Like, yeah, it was such a weird moment that I was like, oh, we got to talk about this on Swoontower. Like,
I think it also, for me, it's that they're all so, I know that, you know, a random fashion show in the Domain isn't like normal people level of Friday afternoon activity. But what I love about having followed all their social medias is that they're just normal people. They're just, I mean, I know that they're high level elite athletes, but they are so silly and goofy and normal. And that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about, was if you're done with fashion, Mike.
Yeah. All I can picture in my head when I picture Kakuta Mane trying on clothes is going to, like, the Tyler's outlet on North Lamar. You know, like, he's like, he just, like, I also, to be fair, I also picture him driving like a Toyota Camry. So I don't know. Maybe I've just got a very specific picture of a person in my head, and Kakuta is that, but I don't know.
Kakuta, he was making like 350,000 a couple years ago.
Sure. I just still picture him driving a Camry. Kakuta, if you're listening, get at me. What are you driving these days? Thanks, man. Just curious.
Yeah, so my favorite thing is Denny Pereira's Twitter, because it's just his whole Twitter presence, because it is the most normal, average person use of Twitter of anyone. You know, a lot of the players are, this team means so much to me, this about the team, this about the match, this about playing, this about soccer. And all of his posts, most of his posts are soccer related, but they're just all retweets. No,
Yeah.
no, like quote tweets. He just retweets everything that he sees. Random TikTok videos. A picture of a little otter holding. There's a picture of an otter holding his hand under the like a plexiglass, and a man holding the little otter's hand. Mike had sent that picture, meme, whatever it was, to me the other day. It's just such a normal thing. And Danny Pereira shared it out on Twitter. Like, all of his tweets are just normal young 20s retweets.
Yeah, terminally online 20-year-old. Like,
Complaining about his Chipotle order.
that's my favorite drama of the entire season, Landon. Honest to God.
I didn't know if that was too long ago to talk about in the off season.
The Danny Pereira eats at Chipotle in Austin saga is my favorite thing.
Soccer players love Chipotle. Athletes love Chipotle.
I get it in other places, right? That makes perfect sense. In Austin, to go to Chipotle feels like a crime. Like, there are so many burritos that you could be eating, Danny. Freebirds is right there.
I don't think it's about the burritos. It's about the rice bowl thing, because they know they can get like X amount of calories with X amount of carbs and protein.
And there's something to be said for consistency too. Like, if they're coming from places that only had Chipotle, I mean, that was Chipotle rice burrito bowl was all I ate for like a couple of years. Not because I was a high level athlete, but because I have food allergies and that was all I could eat. But there's a comfort in knowing I know exactly how many calories is in this. I know exactly what it's going to taste like. There are going to be no surprises. I can get it fast. I can go in, go out. They know everything about me. Just let me get my Chipotle and go home and eat it on my couch. Like,
Well, and
There's a story about Christian Pulisic driving 2 hours from when he was in Dortmund, driving for 2 hours to go to the nearest Chipotle, and like met up with one is an American guy that was playing at Schalke, I think, and they met up somewhere in the drove 2 hours together to go to the nearest Chipotle.
That's amazing.
feels worth it.
My thought on Danny Pereira's Twitter is that, like, he's still young enough not to have a social media handler, but like also is getting to the point where maybe he should.
No way. Don't rein that in.
My favorite thing that he does, though, that like is really touching and sweet, is like he's always retweeting his high school and college like soccer teams. Like, whenever they do something, he's hitting that RT on it. He's hitting the that to me is just really, really sweet to stay in touch with Virginia Tech and wherever he went to high school.
Yeah, whenever we picked him in the draft, I was just trying to find stuff online about him, and I found an interview that he did with the coaches of his club team back in Virginia. And so I think he really does have a lot of love for those guys, because like came over as I believe his family came over as asylum seekers from Venezuela. So to go from that situation in his life to becoming a professional athlete, and like you think about it, in like I don't know how long ago, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, he was a college kid.
Yeah.
That was like just happy to be in college pretty much. Like he's like, I'm getting to go to college for free. This is amazing. And now he's a professional athlete. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense that his Twitter feed looks the way it does.
Yeah. And I mean, I teach high school, and the way that it reads so young and so like genuine old high school, young college kid. And that's the kind of behavior that I see in my kids, just the things that they share and the things that they do. I don't follow any of them on the internet. They don't know that I know the internet exists, but the way that they operate, it just is so wholesome to me that this, sweet little kid is just out there retweeting his best life.
So good.
Do either of you have any other highlights from off-season social media?
Oh, I think we got to talk about the tattoo, right, Landon? Which
tattoo? There's so many to choose from.
The tattoo. Sebastian Driussi's River
Big
Plate
Seb's
tattoo. Yeah. the most recent Driussi tattoo, I feel like we've got to talk about it. I don't know what there is to say other than, yeah, a pro player on our team has a tattoo from the club that he grew up loving.
I think that's great. I think good for him.
How do y'all feel about it? I know some people in town got upset about it.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that got upset about it, and I get it. I would be more upset about it if Driussi hadn't just gotten here in July, right? If he had, I don't know, come up through the academy, or like if we had had a team for more than a year that he had been a part of, I might be like, oh, that's a weird thing to post about. But like, he's been here 6 months. I guess that puts him in like the top 25% of people in Austin, but like it still feels like there's plenty of time for him to get the Oaks, you know?
I think, to me, the reason why I'm okay with it is because of the club that it is.
Sure.
Because River Plate is like a big deal, period. But to Argentines,
yeah,
it is like, it's one of a handful of clubs that you grow up and that's like part of your DNA, whether you play for that team or not.
Well, and like,
so the fact that he got to play for that team, and that's the team that kind of sprung his career, Argentine people, like, it's part of their blood. If you're a soccer person from Argentina, like River Plate, no matter where, he could be at Barcelona and River Plate would be his favorite club. Like,
also, we're not competing against them. Like, this is not a direct he didn't get, the Columbus Crew crest on his ankle, like, I think that would be more of a thing if it was another MLS club or anything else. If I was allowed to get a tattoo at 15, I would have a tattoo of Michelle Kwan. It's not, it's like, that's when you have something that has inspired you so much and is your number one idol in a sport, or your number one conceptual idol, I guess, inhuman idol. I think that it's totally fine. That's something that's important to him. And like you said, it's in his DNA as a player and as a fan of a sport. And I think a lot of times people forget that professional athletes can also be fans of the sports that they play.
Yeah, it's like it's a really humanizing thing to be like, yeah, that's my dad's club, right? Like, that's my grandpa's club. That's my great grandpa's club. And so, yeah, for me, I'm fine with it. But right, I also Steph, if he leaves us in January for River Plate, let's re-record and f*** him forever, and we're gonna bury him.
Aggressive.
Steph, I see on the notes your last point here is about Diego. We have to mention Diego, right?
Have to. I always have to mention Diego. It's in my contract. Every episode I will be mentioning Diego. Okay, first of all, I follow Diego on Twitch. I don't like video games. I don't like video game streams. And Diego's not a particularly good streamer. He's actually a pretty bad streamer. Sorry, Diego.
Wow. Going after.
I know. But his Stream Deck auto tweet is, let's get some wins. And it just makes me... It just is so funny to me because, what else is he going to do in his off time besides stream video games? And it's so fun to watch, even though I'm not really invested in the game. I just love how wild the chat's going about Diego, and then one person will say something about the game and he'll like latch onto that. And it's just such a wholesome experience to watch him stream on Twitch, and just that he does it at all. And, as small content creators, me and Mike, we are like, oh yeah, we had 25 viewers on Twitch last night. Like, that was a good night for us. And Diego's got, 30 maybe at his
like peaks.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, all right. I feel like if we're on a Diego level of stream numbers for our random D&D streams, like, I'll take that. I'll take that gladly.
Yeah.
You're talking about them being humans,
Mm-hmm.
you also get reminded occasionally that a lot of them are like little boys.
Yes,
And they're
yes,
very young.
exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I always forget that Diego is 26 years old
Yeah.
because, like, I'm from Massachusetts. I moved down here to Austin in 2013. So I had a handful of years of Diego Fagundes on the Revs when I lived in Massachusetts already. He grew up in the town next to mine. So one night he missed a Revolution match and they put his like prom picture up on the like Jumbotron to explain where he was. And it was just so cute. But also like, oh, right, he is 17 or whatever at the time, you know? And so when I watch him play games, it's so like you're saying, like, it's like, oh yeah, no, he is a young man. And one of the things that I think is coolest about Diego on Twitch is when he just like, oh, you want to play? Yeah, what's your username? And then he'll just like pull somebody from the chat to play games. I think that's so fun. I think that's awesome. But yeah, he is funny on Twitch. I don't know, Landon, if you've gotten a chance to watch him.
I haven't seen it. I don't spend a lot of time on Twitch.
So he plays a lot with Brad Knighton from the Revs.
Okay.
And so like you can tell that they want to talk about shit that happened like in the locker room or whatever. Every once in a while, like Brad will be like, oh yeah, that, and then he'll stop, like, and so it's really funny to see them remember, like, oh, we're streaming, like
People are listening to
yeah. But every once in a while, one of them will throw something at the other that like references something that they could get in trouble for talking about, and it's just so funny.
So speaking on the same vein of like the players being human, I wanted to touch on Cecilio Dominguez. So he went and spent some time in Mexico pretty much as soon as the season was over, which he lived there for a few years. And it's also just an amazing place to visit. So he was just down there eating the food and catching some vibes in Mexico. And then I saw a story on his Instagram the other day of him riding a mechanical bull
So
in Asuncion,
awesome.
which I can't imagine that Josh Wolf or any of the technical staff at Austin FC would approve of. But this was a post from during the season that he posted. I think they are either renting a house or bought like what looks like a pretty nice house. And it was him and his wife and his little boy, which is probably like 6 or 7 years old. And they were just like hanging out in the living room playing board games or something. And you could see in the background that there like wasn't anything on the walls yet or anything. Yeah. And that was just like a moment that like really humanized him. He's like, he's also like 27 years old, right?
Yeah.
26, 27. And so he's like, I remember moving into an apartment when I was 26 or 27 and like trying to figure out what to do. And he's there with his wife and his little kid, and they're just like playing games on the floor because they don't have a table yet. And it was just like, I think Cecilio has I think people see him as kind of like the rock star guy of the group. Like he's like wants the attention and has the big cool hair and kind of has an attitude a little bit on the field. But then he's also just like this young dad who's like trying to take care of his family.
Are so sweet.
His dad posts are that like, I want Cecilio, if you're listening, I want you to be my dad. I don't know if you're interested in adopting a 37-year-old man, but if so, tweet at me. Like, he just seems like such a good dad. Mm-hmm. The post where like his son's asleep on him as they're watching like kids cartoons and stuff, like it's just all so heartwarming. And then because of where we sit, like he's got a whole crew in 108 that are always there. Like they've all got Cecilio shirts. They're all sitting in the very front row. They're always cheering him on. And he runs over at the end of all the matches to like thank them for being there and like give hugs and stuff. And it's so sweet to see him like trying to put down roots, right? In a way that like a lot of the players maybe aren't quite the same. You know, I think the Stuvers do incredible work here, obviously, right? Like their roots are like pretty established. Diego's got roots here, but like Cecilio's building out like a support system, it looks like, with the folks in 108. I don't know if they're like, if those are tickets that he gets them or if they just like are neighbors or whatever, right? But they've clearly got a relationship. And so it's just really cool to see that. Really heartwarming. Because, yeah, I think you're right, Landon. I think people expect so much superstar out of Cecilio, and he's a dad hoping to like make friends, it looks like.
All right, so I didn't tell you guys about this beforehand, but I just dropped a list of names in the chat.
Okay.
These are the Austin FC players who were released from the club, whose options weren't picked up, their loans weren't renewed. So we've done this several times on Swoontower Soccer of who is the most handsome boy on the team. Who are your picks for that? I don't think we have that on record.
We don't have that.
It's Driussi.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a competition before Driussi came.
Yeah.
100%.
And now it's just...
It's not anymore.
Yeah.
I would say Romagna gives Driussi a run for his money.
Yeah.
Romagna is ridiculously hot.
It's kind of a fight for second place after Driussi joins, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the list of names I just dropped in the chat is the outgoing players. Who is the most handsome outgoing player that will not be on the team next year?
This is a great question, Landon. And I really appreciate that you brought it so that I could talk about Ben Sweat.
All right. That's a sleeper pick there.
I think Ben Sweat is an underrated, attractive man. There's something about like, I like a guy with kind of like a nose on him. I don't know. Like, I also think young Ben Sweat did not work. I think
didn't work. That's dang.
I think older Ben Sweat, and the older he gets, I think he will age like fine wine. I think Ben Sweat is the pick 10 years from now for sure. In the meantime, I think there are a few folks over him, but I'm going long term here, Landon. I'm locking up a long term deal.
I think Ben Sweat goes into the same category as Matt Beasler. Oh, I didn't include Matt Beasler on this list. He's available to pick too. Sorry, I messed that up. But I put them in the same category as like moms would think they're handsome.
Yeah, Beasler strikes me very much as like he's an Applebee's 10. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Matt Beasler is the hottest guy to walk into a chain restaurant for sure.
This is really hard. I don't know if I have an answer for you.
You have to.
I don't really want to.
Have you ever seen Aaron Schoenfeld's eyes?
Like in my nightmares.
You don't like them?
No.
They're like a bizarre, like icy blue color.
He looks like an actor. He looks like, but I don't know what actor. He looks like a villain in a Christmas movie.
He's got a little bit of like Dolph Lundgren to him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's who it is.
I was gonna say, who's the hot guy from season 1 of American Horror Story? And he was Quicksilver in the Marvel Universe.
Oh, he doesn't look like that guy.
Evan Peters, is that? He looks like Evan Peters and Tony Hawk put together.
There's some Tony Hawk there as well.
Yeah, there is some Tony Hawk.
I think Jared Stroud has to get a shout here.
No offense to Jared Stroud.
You're not a Jared Stroud fan?
I am not a Jolly J tweets fan. Just I worked at a summer camp in Western Massachusetts for 5 years, and he looks like a lot of my campers. And so that's my full opinion.
Who did you pick, Mike?
Yeah, I picked Ben Sweat, Steph.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this. I think I'm going to have to go. Oh my God, I don't know. I'm trying to decide between Kakuta and Aidan Stanley, who looks like a hooligan in every Irish film, which is like, I think what I like about him. Like, he looks like he's going to get in a fight.
I'm surprised you didn't give the Lil Sebastian pick. But I know he is a very popular pick among a subset of my friends, most of whom have to Google to make sure that he is of age. And so maybe there's that element to Lil Sebastian.
I feel like regardless of level of attractiveness, Little Sebastian is going to be, as far as like Swoontower content goes, Little Sebastian is a major loss.
He will be missed.
Massive. His personality contributed to a lot of our favorite moments, if not his play on the field, which contributed to a lot of my less favorite moments.
I sit opposite. I sit on the east side of the stadium, so I don't get the up close like sideline views that you got. But I can imagine just like Little Sebastian and Danny hanging out while warming up and like kind of talking to each other. I imagine there'd be lots of magic there.
It's very fun to watch. It's very sweet.
It would not have ever surprised me if like all of a sudden everything became like sepia toned and they started playing like jacks or something. I don't know. They just had like a real boyhood like friendship kind of feeling going on, you know?
Which is captured in that the Austin FC social media content sponsored by whatever car company. I don't remember which one it was, but that was like prime boys content, wasn't it? It just.
Yeah, that was honest to God. I like looked at Steph and I said, they made us something. Like they made Swoontower our own advertisement. Like this is it. This is the content. It's soccer players and cars talking about becoming family. That's all I want.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's favorite part was when they were talking about who was the best driver on the team.
So cute.
And the answer was like probably one of the dads, I think Danny said. And then my favorite moment from the whole thing was they were like kind of ribbing each other about like which player on the team would you least want your sister to marry? And they both like said each other, and then they kind of like took a turn. And like, actually, I'd want you to be part of your family. And then Lil Sebastian is like looking across the car with like a Muppet smile on his face.
So yeah, says, both of them like
actually, I would want you to be in my family. You're a great guy.
You're a great guy.
Just so sweet and pure. Yeah, it was. Oh, I love that. So touching.
So here's our tribute to Lil Sebastian.
That's
you
right.
will be missed. Yeah. Farewell. We hardly knew you.
It's true. There's still time, you know. He could come back one day. I won't jinx us with any predictions on why, but you never know, right? I will say, it's been interesting seeing which of the players is like getting back to work.
Oh yeah,
and which of the players are still riding mechanical bulls in Paraguay.
Musajite has been doing weird, like jumping over poles and then sliding under him on his back. And then there's another one of him exercising in the ocean.
Yeah.
Did you catch that one?
Yep,
Oh,
the
a guy
exercise
holding,
band
like and just running through waves, but not moving like in place.
Oh my God.
I'm not sure how effective any of these exercises are, or like how energy efficient they are, but
They look great on Instagram.
I'm enjoying them.
They look
keep it up.
awesome
Keep it up.
on Instagram. Yeah. And then Alex Ring also posting a bunch of thirst traps in Instagram videos for his stories.
That's my captain right there.
Once I saw those thighs, are you kidding? Oh, Captain, my captain, let's go. Like, woo. Yeah. Alex Ring became a favorite follow very quickly with these off-season videos. He's pretty boring during the regular season.
The trick for Ring is you got to follow his wife to get like the best boys content.
The content,
because she posts a lot of cute videos of their little girls and like gets Alex in there sometimes, but it's mostly like cute kid content there. But she's like a Finnish influencer. She was an athlete as well. Oh. And now she's like, I don't know if she does other work or if she's like influencer / soccer mom.
I love the idea of calling a professional soccer player's wife that they have kids together a soccer mom. Amazing.
Yeah, in England they have wags, right? Here we have soccer moms. That feels so real.
Okay, I think we are running out of time. Is there any other boys content that we need to cover before we wrap up?
Just a little rest in pieces to Cecilio's hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yikes.
That's it. That's all I got. I'm not over it.
Yeah, no. I'm mostly still upset that Steph and I made the same reverse Samson joke at the same time, sitting next to each other in very different places. I posted mine in the Los Verdes Handsome Boys Club, and Steph posted hers on Twitter. So like hers is still around. Mine is lost to the ether. But man,
it just shows that you guys are meant to be.
Landon, thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, of course. So tell our listeners what else you guys are up to and where they can find your content.
Yeah, so we've got a few different shows between us, and you can find them all if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons, Shakespeare, Pokemon, Survivor, general chat show. You can find it all on the Serious Business Network Instagram at SRSBIZ_network, or at my Twitter at Kruggles.
Yeah, and I'm at Future X Skeleton because one day I will die and become a skeleton. But until then, I'll be doing podcasts. Yeah, we do a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons podcast called Adventure Incorporated. And I am also a Pokemon expert sometimes. Landon, I don't know anything about Pokemon. I just make it all up. But you can find that at Pokedexpert.
I have listened to the D&D podcast, which is very, very good. I've also checked out a few episodes of In Addition, which is kind of like a friends hanging out, talking about stuff show, which is also very entertaining. I've not listened to the Pokemon one yet, so I need to get in on that. But yeah, listeners, definitely check out their other shows. They have a flavor for all palates, like with all the different shows that they do. So definitely check those out. But it also, we're going to try to do this again in the future. So listeners, if you have other ideas that would be good Swoontower content, then let us know, and we'll try to work some of that in, because there's, as you all know already, the content is endless. It's just a matter of picking which ones we're going to talk about and how to package those things. And then we also like to give a thanks to Joel Corral just for existing and being amazing, but also he heard us tease Swoontower on the last episode of Moontower, and he actually made us a new logo for it without us even asking him about it or saying anything, and it's absolutely perfect.
It couldn't be better. Honestly, could not be better. Thank you.
So we'll be posting that to social media, and then I'll try to make it the logo for just this episode as well. But I look forward to you all seeing it. But all right, I think it's time to wrap up. Steph, Mike, thanks so much for joining us. I can't wait to do this again. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, your love sank in just a little too late. You know I did not mean.
All right, we want to thank Steph and Mike one more time for joining us to do our first episode of Swoontower Soccer. Again, the format of this is going to be kind of evolving over time, I'm sure, but we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought about it, and we'll have another episode at some point in the not so distant future. We would like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, come find us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at lviajero87. Jeremiah's at jbentley_ATX. We'd also like to encourage you to visit the Striker Texas website. Jeremiah, what's a good article for folks to look for this week?
Phil has a good article on the state of the league from the Don Garber press conference, and includes some quotes that we used just a minute ago, and then it's got some other stuff from about the 30th club team in the league, and it's just a really good overall sort of overview of what to expect from Major League Soccer in the future.
All right, well, thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week with a new episode of Moontower Soccer. Until then, I'm Landon Cottom.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Muchas gracias. Bye bye.